Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags.
And I'm Ol Silky.
And tonight we got the legendary Wet Shoelaces in the house. Introduce yourselves, guys.
Hey, well, I'm Alan Bailey, Beetle Bailey. If you heard me on the podcast before, I'm back. And my partner, Steve Gregory. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, my name is Steve, and you may have heard me if you checked out the Uneven Steven episode very early on in the history of this podcast. And this is sort of like, I like to think of Uneven Steven as kind of like the Apollonian side of my creativity, and Wet Shoelaces is definitely the more Dionysian side of things.
To say the least, it's some crazy shit. I was telling these guys before we started recording, I've been listening to some Wet Shoelaces all day today, marathoning Wet Shoelaces because it's been a while and it's some wacky ass shit. So before we jump into that, we want to say R.I.P. to the legendary Paul Di'Anno, the original singer for Iron Maiden back when they were more of a punk style band. Those first two albums, in my opinion, are the best albums.
Episode 6, we do the Paul Di'Anno years.
Yeah, it's a good.
I believe
good stuff.
Uneven Steven was episode 4 or 5.
Yeah, now don't you go dying on us, Steven.
Maybe number 3.
One is enough. Yeah,
I do have some sad news to share. You
What's
remember
that?
the band Vertison Arc Materializer?
Yeah.
On right after me, and the connection was the drummer, and he had done some stuff with us. He actually passed away about a year ago.
Oh, that sucks.
Wow.
Shortly after your podcast, he got lung cancer and he went quick.
Who did we have on the show? That wasn't the drummer, right?
No, that was the main guy.
Yeah,
okay.
The singer.
Yeah.
And then Silky was telling me about some weird ass fucking dream he had, and I said that'll fit right in with the Wet Shoelaces episode. So let's hip us to that first.
I had this dream about our show, and we had Coheed and Cambria was going to be on the show.
What is that? That's some kind of metal band, right?
No,
like
they're
I have no idea.
They're you'd have to check them out.
It's like some kind of prog rock thing, prog rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not metal at all.
All right.
But so the manager sends me this, like, these are the questions you can ask the band.
Right.
And I get the thing like 5 minutes before the show starts, and we've got everyone on the show, but the questions are indecipherable. Like, you can't, none of the words make sense. And I'm like, what? I don't even know what to ask these guys.
So it was a bunch of Wet Shoelaces song titles.
I guess you could say that, but it was just so bizarre.
Wow.
That I woke up and I'm like, I need to check that band out, but I still haven't. Don't know enough about them, but it was.
I've heard the name. Yeah. It's one of those things that's just in the back of your consciousness because you heard the name once. And
but it was that, in a dream where you need to run and you can't, it's all slow motion, or, I've got these pages and nothing makes any sense. And I'm like, nobody's talking and we're all just like,
Yep.
There you go.
It was funny.
All right. So, well, that's a perfect segue into Wet Shoelaces. So, and I'm going to read the description from their Bandcamp page. We'll be linking the Bandcamp page on the Click Pit after the show. But this is a good description of them. And then I'll tell you how I usually describe them to people. But their official description is Wet Shoelaces is an avant-garde, experimental, and or psychedelic recording project founded by Alan Bailey and Steve Gregory in 1999. The basic duo is frequently augmented by a rotating cast of musicians, poets, artists, shamans, and weirdos known collectively as the Umbruff Collective. So that's the description. I want to hear more about the Umbref Collective in a second, but first I got to tell you cats this story. So I'm at work, one of the cool things I like about my job is I can wear whatever I want. I can listen to music all day while I work. So today I got Wet Shoelaces on in the background of my office.
Wow.
And this coworker comes in. It's like this 20-something coworker of mine. He comes in. He's asking me work-related questions. And in the background, you're hearing this drum machine going and all this kind of kind of weird noises and shit. Finally, and he's kind of looking down at the speakers while he's trying to talk about the work stuff. And I just started laughing. I was like, "You digging the weird shit I'm playing today?" I was like, "These guys have been doing this for 25 years. They get up every day and they just do more of it." Fucking
That's
hilarious. So tell us about the Umbref Collective. I'm a little bit curious about them, that concept, and then we'll dive into the history of your musical interests and all that.
All right, so basically the Umbref Collective started out as just friends of ours that we bring in as guests, and we've brought in guests since the beginning to augment it, on certain songs. Most songs it's just the two of us, but every album there's guests almost. Mm-hmm. So at one point I had a recording session scheduled, and I hate to keep bringing up death, but it was a long time ago, and it's
important to always remember death. Yeah. Keeps things in perspective. So
bring it up as much as we have a project that we should talk about. Alan and I have an ongoing project we want to bring up, but it is Halloween, and the traditional Halloween is Samhain. It's the traditional Celtic of the dead. So I think it's appropriate. Anyhow, so Alan's mother had passed away 20 years ago or something.
Yeah.
And we had a session planned where we had all these other people who were going to show up, and we were going to have this big thing. And Alan's like, "I can't do it now." And I was like, "Well, I still want to have the session, so it can't be Wet Shoelaces. It's got to be something else." Now, Umbref came from the idea of when I was a kid, I was freaked out about something. Like I was scared of something. I was too young to remember it now. But when I was like, a year or two old, my mother tells me that I was always telling her I was afraid of the Umbrefs, and that I was like, they were in the shed and they were here and they were there. And my mother's very kind of like new agey. So she was a little freaked out that I was like seeing aliens or some kind of thing like that, So when Alan and I started putting out CDs, we just for the fun of it made up a record label and called it Umbref Records. And on the edge of every CD would be UMB 001. UMB.
Yeah, I remember you used to send me those CDs in the mail. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically where it started, is just like when I had a session that Alan couldn't make. So that actually became DLF, which is a band that has
Discordian Liberation Front, right?
That was the original version of it, but we've turned it into Dancing Like Fire, Dynamic Lysergic Foundation, the Difficult Listening Federation.
You should do it, David Lee Froth.
We never thought of that.
That's good. Unfortunately, the thing with DLF is the core of it was me and two other guys, one of whom we already talked about had passed. And the other guy passed just right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
DLF Collective, I'm it. I'm the last guy from DLF. But Umbref was like the broader. It's like Umbref contains Wet Shoelaces, it contains DLF, and it contains every other friend, whoever that we. It's
just basically the name for the scene.
Yeah, you could call it a scene. It's
community. Musical community. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Got it.
Yeah, all fun.
So I want to hear, and I don't care which one of you starts, but tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you started getting interested in music in the first place.
Oh, geez. Hang on.
Hey, hold on.
Condor.
We've got El Condor here. Hey, buddy. Pimp that website.
Shop.
Go to the website.
web shop.
website.
Yeah.
We got plushies. We got, I think, plushies. We got
Oh, of course.
toothbrushes.
I don't even know what a plushie is,
Toothbrushes.
but we've
Plushie?
got
We
them.
got mugs. We got stickers.
Tell
We
everybody
got
happy.
everything.
Tell everybody happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
That's
Happy
Alan
Halloween.
and Steve from Wet Shoelaces.
Yeah.
Hey,
Bud.
All right.
Yep. 50 years from
Good
now,
night,
you'll
sir.
be telling people you met Wet Shoelaces. All right.
That's right.
yeah.
So, yeah, go to
Like most great
snagsandsilky.com.
artists, huh? I'll start. Like most great artists, we'll be a lot more popular after we're dead.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's
For
my
sure.
prediction, anyway.
It's the theme of the night.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well,
wrote a,
Alan, this is your 5th appearance on the show, so
Yeah,
you're
we were just talking about that.
he's a veteran, yeah.
I'm in my
Yeah.
glory. Yeah, this is.
Yeah. He
Fantastic.
emailed us saying he wanted to do a Beatles episode, and we made him do 3. All right, so hip us
yeah.
to your background.
So, I mean, I'm in the house I grew up in right now. And
Wow.
because I moved in with my 2 boys after I had gotten a divorce. I moved back in with my father when he was much too old to take care of the house by himself.
Right.
So we spent the last years of his life, back here, and I'm still here. It's, I've been here most of my life now. Absolutely, actually. So I remember sitting on my father's lap. My first waking memory is sitting on my father's lap, listening to an Eddie Arnold record. He's singing along with Eddie Arnold.
Mhm.
That's the first thing I can remember about life.
Wow.
So that's how music started for me.
Mhm.
And then I played, my older brother played trombone in school. I played the trumpet, was in chorus. I was just always doing something involved with music, and obviously buying albums, Kiss. There you go. Kiss.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
your reference.
gotta get the Kiss reference in every Kiss reference, and El Condor are 2 things you can always count on in every episode.
You never
So,
know.
That's how I started. Just chorus, trumpet. I didn't start playing guitar until I was an adult. It was very, what I did was very structured. I did not, stray beyond what was on the written page. But I was very good. I was in a very good band. We had a band teacher that stuck with us from 7th grade all the way to 12th grade because we were that good. He just, he put things in front of us that we had no business playing, and he just made us better by playing stuff that was really difficult.
So obviously the trumpet you hear on Wet Shoelaces songs is
yeah, that's me. Any horn, pretty much any horn.
I got it.
That's very
So
cool.
yeah, that's my origin story.
Got it. And then what about you, Steven?
Okay, so I was a weird little kid that nobody liked, and then I got to be a teenager, and then I became a little bit more popular because I kind of had a chip on my shoulder and listened to heavy metal music, and there were other kids like me to do that with. So
What's that song that your high school band was covering? I forget. Was it a Sabbath tune?
we did Iron Man by Black Sabbath.
Is
We
that
did
the
a
one that's
couple-
on YouTube?
There's definitely 4 covers on YouTube. Iron Man's one of them.
Got it.
We did Metallica and some other stuff that night too. I can't
All
really
right.
even remember. But
Keep
yeah,
going.
that was high school, and you can see in that video, I had my mohawk and everything. It was a little like one of the bad kids, I guess, but not that bad. But like that's when I started playing, rock and roll music. And my dad originally bought me a guitar, but I kind of secretly wanted to be a bass player. I don't even know why. I just thought it was cooler. It's not.
It is cooler.
It is cooler.
It's much cooler.
If you look at some of the coolest musicians in rock and roll, Cliff Burton, Lemmy. I mean, come on.
So,
Doesn't get any cooler.
so you got a Lemmy reference in too.
Yeah.
I know
It's very important.
That's in our blood. That goes without saying.
Yeah, right on. So where was I? I lost my place. Oh, bass. Yeah. So
Bass.
once I got out of high school, I answered an ad. There was a band looking for a bass player to play like funk rock. And I graduated in 1991, so Red Hot Chili Peppers were all the rage then and everything. So that was the kind of thing. So I went out and did that, and that kind of formed my style, you know. Like if you listen to the Uneven Steven stuff, but even a lot of Wet Shoelaces stuff, if I'm playing the bass, I'm getting into a little bit of that funky style, you know. But I think with Wet Shoelaces, there was a point in time when I was really broke, and I was listening to a bit of John Zorn, and there was a box set at the record stores, a 3-disc box set, and it was called Archery.
Oh yeah.
And I've been eyeballing that thing for months and drooling over it. And I saved up, and finally I had enough money. I went in and got Archery, and I went home and I put it on, and it sounded like 3 hours of random freaking noise. But I wasn't upset about it. I was really intrigued by it. And it made me realize that you can really just do anything. You can make your own rules up and make your own ideas up and just, and I think we need to pay tribute to a local musician named Jason Martin, who had the same effect on Alan. So I'll let Alan tell that story.
Before you do, John Zorn, there's an Electra compilation album of new Electra artists covering old Electra artists. What's the Stooges?
It's called Rubaiyat.
Yeah,
and it was the album that Metallica did Stone Cold Crazy on. They covered a Queen song.
What's the
he did TVI.
John Zorn covers TVI, and it basically is just sounds nothing like TVI.
Yeah.
It's just labeled TVI. It's fucking
basically
hilarious.
Screams for 2.5 minutes, and it's called TVI.
I remember we thought that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Alan, tell us about this cat that was influencing you.
Oh yeah, so Jason Martin, I had never heard of him, but on our cable system, they had a public access channel, you know, like a Wayne's World kind of thing. It was more, you know, it was well produced. It was a show called Sounding Board, and they would have local musicians come on, and usually it was, you know, a chick with a guitar, you know, sang, you know, with a pretty voice, and or you know, a 4-piece band, you know, but it was always, you know, mainstream, whatever it was. And then they had this guy Jason Martin on. It was just a guy with an electric guitar, I think, and another guy with like a hooded mask over his head playing keyboard. And it was just nonsense. He had like a song called Soapy Dime Eater, you know, and it but again, like Steve, I'm like looking at it and like the more he, you know, I'm like, this is terrible, but I love it. You know?
Right. We were listening to Ween today on the way. El Condor had a trunk or treat thing today, and the phone's on random, and it played a Ween song, and my wife's like, turn this off immediately. Turn this off right now. And it was something off of Chocolate and Cheese, which is one of their better albums.
Yeah, it's one of more mainstream.
And
God wings Satan, the oneness would blow her fucking mind.
Yeah, but she was like, turn that off right now.
Yeah.
And I was cracking up because I think we're all on the same wavelength, is where we can hear a song and we know it's obnoxious, but we love it.
Yeah.
And if someone else were to come in the room, you'd be like, I'm sorry, let me, you know, or you'll crank it up just to piss them off, you know, depending on who it is, you know.
I think you could draw a straight line from Push the Little Daisies, and make.
Oh, I love that song.
To me, anyway. You know.
Yeah, whenever I describe Wet Shoelaces to people, I say Frank Zappa meets Ween meets a tab of acid.
You're not too far off. I'm a huge Zappa fan. I've got every album. So
he's amazing. Yeah.
I learned Zappa, but from Steve. I mean, I knew of Zappa. I actually had some albums like Chic Your Booty, but Steve really opened my eyes to really what he was all about.
Yeah, any Zappa you put on is just brilliant. Anything, even the stuff that they've put out after his passing, there's a lot of great shit that has come out.
Yeah, a lot of the live stuff is really good.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of Halloween 77 reissues and stuff. They come out like in the old 70s masks.
Yeah.
It's
I still
pretty
remember
funny.
how they smelled. You know,
Yeah.
when you're a kid, you put the mask on, had
Yeah.
that funky plastic smell.
Oh yeah.
That and the string would break and damn near rip
it
your
would
ear
break.
off. Yeah, it was great. It would cut your eyelid, little eye slit, you know.
Yeah.
Good times.
All part of Halloween.
Yeah, it's good times.
Death and misery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did tell us about? There was one episode, I forget which one, with one of you guys where you were telling us a little bit about the origins of Wet Shoelaces. But for those who didn't catch that episode, tell us the story about how this 25-year bout of insanity began.
Okay, so to really tell the whole story, basically you got to go back to when I was married, and it was, you know,
did this band cause both of your divorces?
No.
Although here's a true story. His ex thought that he and I were having an affair.
Oh, there you go.
And
that's fantastic.
As far as I know, he's not bi. I'm not bi. No. As far as I know, he's not. But that's what she had in her head. So
in a way, it did
spent
cause
a lot of time together in one room, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they're not wearing pants right now, but we don't.
But other than that, you know, yeah.
Okay, so my wife worked at a diner, and there were these guys who were regulars that always came in, and one of them was doing his own little backyard festival thing. It was called Brigstock. This guy's name was Ken Briggs, so he had Brigstock 98 to be specific.
That's hilarious.
So Cindy and I had a band together, so she wheedled a gig out of him. And Alan was doing sound at the gig, and he was also doing short acoustic sets of covers of like Robin Hitchcock and John Lennon and cool shit like that.
In between bands.
In between bands, yeah. So it was also like a lot of really sort of like normies, you know? So I was like, you know, Cindy and I were like looking for someone to go get high with, right? You know? And then Cindy comes up to me all excited. She's like, I met someone who gets high. So we're this guy. So we're off.
Of course, that's how this band started. Yeah.
So yes, yeah, it had to, definitely. In fact, really, because long story short, eventually Alan wrote a couple of tunes that he wanted to demo.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so we bought a 4-track, and he asked me to come over.
4-track cassette recorder.
Yes, back in the day.
1999.
I had one of those. Yeah.
He asked me to come over, show him how to use it. So I went over there thinking that, you know, I'll help him record this demo of his songs. And then
is that a DAT tape?
No,
it was just a regular cassette. Yeah.
If you look at the shoebox,
it's on there. It's a picture of a Memorex cassette.
Original, like our first
that's the tape.
That's great.
Oh,
that's
wow.
Great.
So anyhow, I lost my train of thought now.
You came over to help me.
I came over to help him with the demo.
Yeah.
And then some smoking probably occurred.
Yeah, I was gonna say you and then you asked if he had any weed. Yeah.
And then by the time we pushed record, like I was like, well, here's how you record a track. So we just like put some random bullshit, right? And then here's how you overdub and just more random bullshit. And then the lyric of the tune ended up being called Michael, You're a Shit Monkey. And this has a story too, because Cindy, again, my ex-wife, she claimed that when she was living in San Francisco, she was friends with Mike Patton's roommate.
Oh, wow.
Faith No More and whatever.
Yeah.
So she claims that Mike Patton's roommate told her that Patton has like a scat fetish.
I can totally see that. He's a weird cat.
Yeah, he's a little weird, but
yeah.
So she claims that she used to prank call him by calling him up and going, Michael, you're a mad little shit monkey, Michael. You know? So that became the tune. I needed like some kind of lyric, like here's how you record a vocal part. Michael, you're a mad little shit monkey. So
Have you ever emailed him that MP3? Have you thought of doing that?
Emailing the
Mike Patton. Yeah,
Mike
I bet he's got. I bet he's got an email address. You should send it. That'd be fucking hilarious.
So I keep losing my train of thought. Sorry.
As usual.
Must be the weed you smoked right before the interview.
No, Mike Pat, we were Shit Monkey.
Oh yes. Yeah. So when we listen back to the recording, anyhow, it was we liked it a lot. You know, we thought it was cool, and then we did another one that was more instrumental oriented, but still had a kind of a childish name. We called it the All You Can Eat Snatch Buffet.
Snatch buffet, nice.
There you go.
So we put that out. We kind of like released it, quote unquote, as a cassette single initially.
Yeah.
He bought a box of tapes with 5 minutes per side, and we put one song on one side and one song on the other, and that was our debut.
Yeah.
And what did you do with it? Did you just give it to all your friends, basically?
Yeah. Hand it around. So it took, I think, 11 months after that before we got together again. We kept saying, we got to do that again. We got to do that again.
Yeah.
So we got together again and we did it again and we made another single. And then at some point, Alan said to me, I've got a name for the band. And I was like, okay, I didn't know we were a band, but I guess whatever you want to call it that. So he said, Wet Shoelaces. So I always wanted to name a band Wet Shoelaces, and I get shot down every single time. So I said, well, this is your time. Wet Shoelaces is born. So
yeah.
That's
there
awesome.
it is.
So eventually the first album was really just collected together out of all of those cassette singles. We just everything that we had done up to that point.
And we had just gotten it. CD burning technology had just begun.
Oh yeah, okay.
So and that's this. I don't know if you're right.
Oh, there it is. What's the name of the album?
Stanley Crummins.
Stanley Crummins.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think you sent that one to me back in the day.
Steve wrote an entire libretto.
Somewhere I've got those CDs. Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Is it just one long song, or how many?
No, it's a bunch of those little singles they were doing.
Gotcha.
17 tracks altogether. Some of which are on the shoebox.
Shoebox.
Yeah. The 20 years of weird.
How many albums do you think you guys have?
Oh, we know because we number them. We're up to
31.
31.
We just released 31. Yeah.
Isn't your latest album called 31?
No, the greatest hits album is that's the Shoebox.
Yeah.
We didn't give that a number.
We
just
did not.
New material. We give a number to.
Gotcha. I thought you had an album called 31 on Bandcamp, but maybe not.
We have an album called 30 on Bandcamp. XXX.
Okay. Got it.
We just released Songs to Get You to the Other Side, like a month ago, and that's 31, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk. We'll get to that. Since I think the Shoebox would be a good introduction to anybody out there who wants to just dive into the at your own risk, dive into the world of Wet Shoelaces. I do want to kind of talk about that a little bit also because it's kind of an overview of your first 20 years. Let's pull up the first album and just we'll both kind of scroll through and look at the tracks. Mummy Tornado. It starts off with this song called Mummy Tornado, which is, who's doing the ranting there? It sounds like an excerpt from a William Burroughs novel. It's just complete insanity, ranting with some.
Yeah, I'm doing the vocal, but the actual words were co-created by the two of us using one of those magnetic poetry kits.
All right, what's a magnetic poetry kit?
So you get this like a box full of these tiny little magnets that each have a word on them.
The kids
put them on your fridge
together.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah. So you just threw them at the fridge and.
So this one was supposed to be love poetry, but not when we got a hold of it. We did perverted things with it.
Yeah.
And then the third verse, I just improvised off the top of my head because we needed more words.
Right.
And Mummy Tornado, the title comes from the fact that my stepson at the time had just given Alan 2 little drawings that he did on Post-it notes. One was a mummy and the other was a tornado. So Alan
Nice.
looked at the 2 little Post-it note arts and he just went, Mummy Tornado into the microphone. And that's when I went, pent up death scream through 1,000 twisted masturbations, all this crazy shit off the bat, right?
That's fucking awesome.
That is
And then
exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go into Serendipity Baby, which is completely different. It's like these African rhythm, polyrhythmic, really kind of percussion type stuff.
Yeah.
Who's playing the percussion on that one?
That is actually Drum Machine.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the early stuff we using a lot of just the
So-
Casio beats, but sometimes
Now
really
this
heavy
one
process.
had some
Well-
soul to it though. It wasn't like a Run DMC drum machine Kraftwerk
What's that?
kind of thing. This one had some soul to it.
It's actually a mistake, Serendipity Baby, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Because the very first album we did, the Stanley Crummins album, there's kind of a bookend. Right after the first track, there's a song called Come Here, as in Come Here.
All right.
And then the song next to last is called No Go Away. And they're kind of like bookmarks because Come Here has everything going forward, right? It's
Well, what we did is we did a track where we recorded the drums,
right.
and then we flipped the tape around backwards,
Yeah.
and then recorded the bass. So you got the drums going one way and the bass going the other way.
Got
And
it.
then you make 2 songs out of it. One with the
Yeah.
forward bass and backwards drums, and one with the other way around. And a
Backwards
whole
bass and
set of
forward
overdubs
drums.
on each one. So
Right.
that was the concept between that pair of songs.
Right.
Serendipity Baby is a song that happened when Alan stuck the wrong tape in the wrong way and got, I guess it's probably Come Here running backwards, right?
Exactly. It's one of them running backwards or, yeah.
But it just sounded so cool the way it was. It was
Yeah.
like,
Third song was
We got an
born,
extra song out of
yeah,
it.
exactly. And
which
that was-
only happens when you're stoned out of your mind, I'm sure.
Usually.
thank God it's legal now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what's so great is being in the studio and you mess up or say you can use it. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with Wet Shoelaces, it's not really about messing up or not messing up. Like
Yeah, it's
anything
just
goes.
the creative.
But yeah, like for me especially, I think Alan's better at this than I am. I get into my own head too much. And I want to be like Mr. Musician and play the right notes and the right chords and whatever.
Right.
And Alan just is the all-time king of fuck it.
because kind of our opposite experiences as children, because like I said, everything I did with the trumpet was on the page, no improvisation.
Right.
It was good, but it was all structured. Everything was by the rules, do it this way,
Yeah.
And by the time I got out of high school and college and all that, yeah, I just wanted no structure at all. So when Steve and I started this, I was just in my playground,
Yeah.
I love to let go. So yeah.
Well,
There you go.
it's just cool to learn how to play anything. And Snags and I were in a band called Booger Cookie, and he
I think
he
I sent you.
continues-
I may have sent you. This is when I was
Yeah.
doing the Craig stuff, and then Booger Cookie was the Craig's, except he was on vocals instead of Craig. Craig played all the other instruments, and then. Yeah.
But Snags puts he puts a limit on his playing in saying that it's jangle rockers, and I'm like, dude, that's your style, and don't put it down,
Yeah. I've got a musical talent ceiling, but yeah, he's saying just embrace that as your style.
Yeah. I mean, you just
Right,
gotta, because I think a lot of musicians don't think they're that great. We're
I
all
did
our
a-
own worst enemy.
Put it this way: the Craigs did a cover of "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again," and somebody said that sounds like a cat being thrown down a flight of stairs.
Well, that's what you were
But hey,
shooting for.
That's my style.
You gotta
Exactly.
own it,
Some of that stuff is good, and some of it's kind of you know.
But see, someone out there would be like, "This is amazing," you know. So you never know.
Yeah, if it, you know,
So
if I should release the albums with free acid, and then it's going to be
That's
amazing. Take the
Yeah.
acid. So I love just you guys. I have this phrase, phonetically fun phrases, and which when I come up with song titles, or you know, sometimes we'll come up with podcast episode titles. I like a phonetically fun phrase, and you guys are the kings of that. Just some of these song titles: Banana Fondue Breakdown, Breaking Solar Wind, Intergalactic Frisbee. That's fucking awesome.
Oh, that's great.
I got to give Alan 90% of the credit on titles. He is
Intergalactic.
I usually look at him
Frisbee.
and go, "What are we calling it?"
Yeah.
Yes, that's killer.
You got a song on here. We'll jump to the next volume because I don't want to spend too much time on these. But song on here, dosing the fruit punch at the Liars Convention. It's like some policy wonk speech that you're playing, and then you guys are doing little weird versions of the voice where you got some serious guy talking about public policy, and then you got another voice saying the same words, but it's like kind of fucking. What's the story behind that one?
So it started out, I had just bought the bass pedal that I was using on that. A lot of the swoopy noises and stuff is from a multi-effects pedal that's got like a whammy effect in it. And I had just bought it, so I wanted to use it, and I made all this crazy noise up, and I was like, well, that's cool, but it needs something else. And so I think it was probably Alan's idea. He turned on the TV and tuned it to C-SPAN or something, and just whatever they were yammering on about at the moment, we just mic'd it up and put it in there, and then ran it through, an effects processor. We used to do a lot of that in the early days, taking voices and pitching them up or pitching them down to make them sound. You hear a lot of that in like old Butthole Surfers records too.
Yeah.
So
that's another band those are kindred spirits to you guys for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, especially that really crazy early stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess we just called it that because you had people on both sides of the aisle yammering on about their things, and it's like they're all a bunch of damn liars. So
it was fucking. That song is fucking hilarious.
It is. Some of the stuff they said was great. Not every dollar goes to terrorism.
Right.
Shit like
and then
that,
you have this little mocking voice. Not every dollar goes to terrorism. Speaking along with it. And then the other song before we move on to volume 2 of the Shoebox is the punk rock classic. And I remember this from back in the day when you guys sent it to me. Awesome. Just it's all this weirdness. And then you just lay down this fucking classic 70s style straight ahead punk rock jam. I Want to Fuck Your Mom, which is awesome. What's the story behind that one? Whose mom did you want to fuck?
Well, the story behind it is you had a film back in the day that you had planned making, but you never made.
And which one was that?
You wanted a punk rock score. I don't know what it was.
Oh man, so this is my fault. No wonder I like that. Yeah.
So that was the first song I came up with. I just wanted to make like a joke on the whole how offensive punk rock can be sometimes. And just make the stupidest, most offensive song I could think of. So I want to fuck your mom, and then I'll fuck your dad. The best time he's ever had.
Right. It's a fucking great song.
Thank you.
I have a vague memory of getting that song, but I had forgotten that I inspired you to write a punk rock song. That's fucking awesome.
Punk rock, a whole EP. We call it Never Mind the Velcro. Here's Wet Shoelaces.
Yeah, I remember now.
That's great. What a great title.
Well, and we got to throw out some credit to Bear and Steve.
And Steve, who played on it,
because that's real drums and real guitar.
Yeah.
From the two people that passed away that we talked about.
Oh man. So that was DLF with Alan guesting, basically.
In a way. But the lines get blurry.
Yeah.
Lines were always kind of blurry at times. What do we call this particular project? And That's actually
Right.
when I started using Umbref Collective, just to have something that covers everyone.
Got it. So let's move on to volume 2. First of all, I want to give a shout out. I have a couple Christmas playlists on Spotify, and if this was on Spotify, it would definitely go on one of my Christmas playlists. But I've got an old school Christmas songs playlist, and that's like all the Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra shit. And then I've got punk rap metal Christmas playlist, and that's got like Fears, Fuck Christmas, and all the good stuff.
King
And
Diamond, no.
This
Presents
would
for
be on
Christmas?
that one if it was on Spotify. I'll have to look that one up. I don't think I have that one on my playlist, but this is Sweet When Jesus Met Santa. Fucking 13 minutes. 13. One of you guys play. I think is it Alan that's playing Santa?
No,
And
I'm Santa.
Steve, you're
Alan's
Jesus.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. And you guys are. What's the story behind that one?
Yeah, I'll start it. Steve could finish, but I think
Right.
all I did was say, "Hey, Steve, I'd like to come up with a song about Jesus meeting Santa."
No, you wrote half that script.
Oh, I did?
Oh, yes,
I
you
say,
did.
Okay, well, hey, that's marijuana again,
Yeah.
I thought you came
Yeah.
up with it all.
No, you wrote the first half,
All right.
and I felt like it was really good at skewering materialism, but it needed a little bit more skewering of religion. So I kind of took it from there.
I knew you were probably. I guessed you were probably the one talking about the polytheism versus the monotheism stuff, and it's interesting. It covers a lot of ground in there.
I had just been initiated into a coven at that point, so I was kind of obsessed with all that shit back then. So it went its way into a lot of my shit. So
that whole we're the only God thing, that
yeah,
that's
polytheistic gods,
arrogant shit.
They're a bunch of arrogant assholes. For that. Yeah.
It was funny. Anyways, that's good shit. And then there's Song of the Sirens, which is what's the story behind that one?
A sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the great one of the great unfinished Wet Shoelaces projects. We bit off a little more than we could chew. So
maybe this is the one that I just gave you the idea.
I
just gave him the idea, and he just took it and wrote a complete.
So he wanted to put Jesus in Greek mythology. Find some way to tell a Greek myth with Jesus.
Yeah, he was tired of being God's son or whatever, and he wanted to be part of the party. He just wanted to join the rest of the gods.
So is Jesus the one on there who's saying he wants to go fuck a siren?
No, that's Odysseus. Jesus he's trying to stop him.
So
obviously, yeah, right.
So I wrote a whole rock opera. This is literally just one song of a whole 15 song thing that I wrote. And it got to be too much to work on, and I just kind of burned out on it. But we, in my version, I found 7 episodes from the Odyssey, and I related them to the 7 deadly sins. And in my version of the story, Odysseus, instead of being a resourceful warrior, he's kind of like a dumb frat boy who just cannot keep himself out of trouble. And the idea behind it is that when Jesus says, don't commit these sins, he's not saying, hey, don't commit these sins because you're going to go to hell. He's saying, don't commit these sins because your life is going to turn out like shit if you do. Don't cheat on your wife, right? Why is that bad? Because if she finds out, then your life is going to go to shit. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not because God's going to throw you in a pit of fire. It's because there's real consequences to your actions.
Repercussions.
So Jesus is going around constantly trying to save Odysseus from his own stupidity, in my version.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So there's a lot of fuck noises in that. Where do those come from?
And that ties back to something else we were saying, because this was back when Alan was married.
Oh, that's hilarious.
When I wanted to sample the porn noises, he had to tell her. And I was like, why the fuck does he have to tell his wife that we're sampling? He told me years later it was because he didn't want her to think that we were fucking to porn. But I just found, I just
Yeah.
went through some porn videos and found some things where the ladies were making good noises, and I said, okay, from this
See,
video.
I was imagining a really fun recording session, but it's just,
Unfortunately, it wasn't quite that good.
Yeah.
right. You didn't have any groupies in there making noises for you.
No.
All right.
Oh,
All right.
man.
So let's see what else we have on this one. I just love the title of this one. He died with a handful of soul fire nobody understood.
Early.
Ed Dimmer.
Where did that title come from?
That title came from Ed Dimmer, whose name in the Umbref collective
Pantheon
or universe is E. Aubrey Andrews. So he was a guy that I worked with, and I gave him some Wet Shoelaces cassettes early on when we were doing the cassette singles. And he came back to me with all this crazy poetry that he wrote based on what he was inspired by in the Wet Shoelaces stuff.
Oh,
We
wow.
ended up using, we used some of it in
gives a lot of material.
7/17/99. What is that thing called? It's one of the suites on the box set.
Sun Peach Girls Winter.
Sun Peach Girls Winter.
That's on there.
That's all his words based on our shit.
Yeah, we stole a lot of material from him.
Well, with his permission and giving him credit. But yeah, we did.
Yeah, we gave him credit.
That title was from one of his poems. He died with a handful of soul fire. Nobody understood. My reaction to it was the same as yours. I was like, yeah, that's cool.
That's fucking badass.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought of putting everything on Spotify, just the whole entire catalog?
Well, I don't even know how to do that. When I did it for Uneven Steven, I had to pay a distributor to do it.
Yeah, it costs money.
So I don't know. Yeah, I would say if we were going to do anything, we might do some of our newer stuff, and then maybe the box set to cover the old period.
Oh, you got to do the shoebox, yo, for sure.
Yeah. Shoebox on. Yeah.
So, volume 3, Raga de Blanc, it's the second song on there. It sounds almost like you're playing sitars. What are you playing on that? It's very Indian, obviously, with the title.
When Alan and I had gone to see Shankar, the violinist, the Indian violinist, with what was the Zakir Hussain? The tabla player. Yeah. And I can remember sitting next to Alan in the audience and looking at him and going, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So I looked up an Indian scale online and I tuned the guitar so that it was all like drones and I could play with this Indian scale, just memorizing where the notes were, running up and down it while everything else droned out. Hey, can you grab me water while you're up there? Thank you. And I just showed Alan what I was thinking of, and we, I think in order to play the thing on the keyboard, I think we actually took little pieces of tape, thank you, and put little pieces of tape on the notes on the keyboard because there was no way we were going to memorize this scale. We're not,
right.
Keyboardists. I can play a little keyboard now, but back then I couldn't. And so we just stuck to that scale, and then the drone comes from this thing that I had was called a didgeridoo, and it was basically a didgeridoo made out of a piece of PVC pipe that I had back in the 90s that someone gave to me. And so I just ran that through delay because I can't do circular breathing, but I just, by doing that, it just keeps going and going and going. And then we overdubbed this whole, what we normally do. We just overdubbed all this crazy stuff. And he's the title master. And when he titled it Raga de Blanc, and I thought it was brilliant. So
yeah, it's basically riffing off Regatta de Blanc.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's Raga.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And then the next one on there I named because I had a short film called Machine Skin that I got you guys to do the soundtrack. That's actually a beautiful piece of music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's like
that was one I actually wrote that as a MIDI piece, putting pieces on the screen, and then in order to make it a Wet Shoelaces piece, I left some pieces some parts of it open for improvisation, and then had Alan do the improvised parts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was very proud of that when I wrote it. I thought it was a really nice, pretty piece.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to those short films. I do want to talk about our our film collaboration stuff a little bit, but I'm just looking at
see those on YouTube or something, man. I'd love to be able to show them to people, you know.
I'll have to track them down. I've got them on tape somewhere. I had them on YouTube.
No, I've digitized them all. I'll send them to you.
You got the films?
Yeah, I've got them all.
Oh, well, dude, send me a Dropbox link, dude.
All right, yeah.
Dang, cool.
Yeah, I'll set it up for everybody. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So I'm looking at some of these other song titles just because for the phonetically fun phrase stuff. Oh, you got loop. You got a few loop songs. There's one that's Fruit of the Loop, and then this one is Loop, I Am Your Father. So what's the story behind the looping?
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. It's
explain. Zoom out and explain, like, to a novice what looping is.
Oh, okay.
Right,
so
yeah.
basically,
One
you have
track.
some short little segment of audio that just repeats over and over and over again. And the reason why it's called a loop is because they used to do it with a loop of actual tape. And so you just, let's say, you know, like for in loop, what's the other one? The other one you mentioned, not
Fruit of the Loop.
Fruit of the Loop is like Sunday, not Sunday-ish.
Yeah.
Sunday,
over and over again. Yeah.
Sunday, not Sunday-ish. So yeah, the idea is just taking something and just repeating it to death, but then changing the relationship of it with other things in order to create variation.
Right. Adding a little. Got it.
Because you mentioned Sunday-ish, I gotta explain that. Like what I brought to Wet Shoelaces, at least in the beginning, I'm not so sure I do it now, but I tried to make music out of anything that just came to my mind. And one thing was this was back in the old answering machine days where everything was on cassette.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody left me a weird message, it would become a Wet Shoelaces tune, or at least part of it. So yeah, I think it was the guy that was selling us the marijuana called me up with a message, and instead of saying it's Sunday noonish, he goes, it's noon Sunday-ish, Sunday, not Sunday-ish. And so that was it. That was gold for
Yeah.
me, you know. So,
I love shit like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Fruit of the Loop. That's a fucking hilarious. So and then some of the just phonetically fun phrase song titles on volume 3. You've got Ion Breath, Galagus Interruptus, Urban Nightmare.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I am really proud of Machine Skin. I think that's a cool title that I came up with.
Yeah.
All right, volume 4. Looking through this one.
4 of 4.
Oh, Stick Figure Parable. I fucking love that title. What's the deal with this? There's a couple multi-track pieces that show up throughout the whole box set. One is called Centipede and one is called Chameleon.
Yes, thank
What's
you
the
for bringing those up.
story behind those?
I'll start. Steve, you had to come up with the ideas for them. Chameleon was Steve's idea to have 60 tracks
Right.
on one CD
Yeah.
that were each a minute long.
Right.
So you would have an hour-long CD with 61-minute tracks. Centipede was 100 tracks.
Anything else you need?
Siri thinks I'm talking to her. Sorry.
That has to be on a Wet Shoelaces song now.
No.
I'll send you the clip.
And Centipede was just 100 tracks, and then we realized when we got to 100, you can only put 99 tracks on a CD.
That's
So
hilarious.
CD barrier.
You got to leave them hanging, you know.
But with both of these albums, the idea was you're not supposed to listen to them in order. You're only supposed to listen to them on shuffle.
Uh,
And Centipede was like taking Chameleon one step further, because
Right.
Chameleon was like 60 songs that you listen
Right.
to in various orders. The idea behind Centipede was that it was fragments of one long song. So everything is deliberately atonal and whatever. So there's no like jarring chord changes or rhythm changes, because it's all just sort of like strange noises. But it's this
Right.
constantly shifting pattern of strange noises that's different every time you listen to it. So I recommend checking that one out in its entirety, and it is on Bandcamp. And the best way to hear it is to download it and play it on shuffle.
There you go. Or if you listen to the shoebox, they're ordered and shuffle automatically. You know,
Scattered throughout, yes.
Yeah, Centipede
Right,
number 96, then Centipede number 40. You know, so yeah, interesting stuff. And then another cool song that I liked on Volume 4 was Channel Surfing, and that's got some of that fat, stanky, funky ass bass going on it.
Well,
Yes.
thank you, sir.
Tell us about
That's an OG track.
That is
Yeah.
early track. In fact, that is the track that really, there was one session where we did that tune, and we did what's that other really
Vulva Rock, baby.
Vulva Rock, baby. Both of them were 11 minutes long or something, and suddenly we couldn't make cassette singles anymore, and I didn't know what we were going to do, and then all of a sudden Alan got the CD burner.
Oh, there you go.
That basically, the idea behind Channel Surfing was that Alan got one of the Casio keyboard with the pre-programmed drum loop going, and the idea was that he was supposed to randomly change the drum loop while I tried to jam along with it, and then I had to kind of follow him wherever he went with it. And then he was also playing, I think he was playing probably the black keys.
Just the black keys, yep.
And I was probably playing in E flat minor. Yeah. gives you, I don't know if you know that, but if you play a keyboard, just play the black keys, you get an E flat pentatonic minor scale. So
that's the scale that almost every Motorhead song is in. I think it's E flat pentatonic or E pentatonic, but it might be down tuned a half, so it's E flat. But
it wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So
that was fun.
It was just sort of fun. Just like anything else we do, is like, let's set ourselves some sort of scenario or some sort of problem or some sort of something and see what the hell happens.
That was a little bit of a preview of Uneven Steven, in my opinion, because you really get into the fat, stanky bass in that side project of yours.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Steve is much too humble about his bass playing. He is the best.
We raved. Go back, all you millions of cats out there who are listening. Go back and listen to the Uneven Steven episode. That's when we were recording on Spotify so we could drop tracks, and we play a lot of Uneven Steven.
And that was actually one of our more popular shows.
Yeah, that's got a lot of listens.
I think even to this day, actually.
Wow,
nice.
Yeah.
So in the basically in the 2000s, early 2000s, I got into I was making short films and submitting them to film festivals and stuff. And I was and my whole filmmaking thing started with Silky back when we were in our early 20s. We started making films, and we made a silent film with, what was it, Piper at the Gates of Dawn soundtrack.
Yeah. I think that was called Attack of the Phantom Lord.
Yeah, and it was just weirdness.
A Saucer Full of Secrets on that second Pink Floyd album.
Wow.
Okay.
That's the song, yeah. So,
and bizarrely, it synced up to everything we were doing in the film.
Yeah.
Without editing or any.
So it's basically this silent film. We're wearing these Laurel and Hardy hats, but it's like Laurel and Hardy on an acid trip. Nice. So we're just doing all this weird shit, and suddenly, holding a cup of water, and then it vanishes, and walk out a room, and you're in the middle of a field, all kinds of just weird shit. And we're like, what are we going to do? It was a silent film. We actually shot it on a Super 8 camera.
And then it cuts to us driving a car, and we pass somebody, and the guy jumps up and beats our ass and steals the car.
That's the end of it. Yeah.
And we're just left,
and we're wondering, what are we going to do for music? And he suggests Saucer Full of Secrets. Is that the song?
Yeah.
And it fucking is just like Pink Floyd with Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Weirdly synced up perfectly. The music would drastically change whenever the scenes would switch. It was crazy.
It was like Kismet or something. It was crazy.
So then we do a couple films, half hour long films we shot with a VHS camera, and we just enthusiastically packed the soundtracks with Metallica, Rolling Stones, all kinds of bands we loved. And I remember being so proud of those, and those were the same characters, but it was a little more Wayne's World-ish, a little less surreal. And I remember submitting, we had one of them is called Crash Course in Brain Sodomy. And it's basically this guy lives above these two other guys, and he's not aware of their existence, but he slowly drives them insane. Because he's just the two guys is like that are living, they're roommates, and they're crazy, always having crazy parties and shit. And the guy below them, they slowly drive him insane, and they don't even know he exists.
Yeah,
he's constantly trying to get them to turn down the music, and stuff will happen where for some reason they don't even realize he's doing that, and they end up driving him insane without him they never even knew he existed. And it's a great concept, and it was pretty well executed for a couple of 19, 20-year-olds with a VHS camera. But we packed it with all this copyrighted music. So I submitted it to the Atlanta Film Festival. And they're like, yeah, we can't play this with Ride the Lightning on it, whatever.
Yeah. I still think he needs to get that on DVD or something, because you guys would enjoy the shit out of it.
Oh my God, yeah, I want to see it. Totally.
And another thing, if they're willing to do it, they could create their own, and then we could actually show it.
Yes.
I don't know how we would separate the tracks at this point, though. It's just on a quarter.
Let them figure it out.
I don't know if you can. Anyways, I might have those on 3/4 inch tape if you guys remember what that was. But fast forward a little bit. Silky and I write a film script, which is now on our website, called Sink or Swim.
Yes.
Full-length film script. No copyright issues there because there's no music on it. And didn't really go anywhere. We ended up just recently, a couple of years ago, putting it on Amazon as a book. And then Silky moves to California, and I'm still trying to make films, but I'm a little wiser now. Like maybe I can't use the Rolling Stones and Metallica on my films. Mm-hmm. And so I start looking on the internet for people to do soundtrack music. And I remember there was a local music magazine and website called Stomp and Stammer. It's like a Atlanta rag that was all about the local music scene. And they had a forum. So I get on the forum and I post a little post. Hey, I'm a local filmmaker. I'm looking for people to collaborate with me on music. And I remember just all these assholes responding going, it's really uncool to ask for free music, man. If you want music, you got to pay, It's like, and it's just, I have this tendency and of whenever I get online and engage with people, I always end up encountering a bunch of fucking assholes. So that's why I'm not on social media these days. I just after like 12 versions of that experience, I just gave up.
Sure.
But so somehow I ran across you guys, like the only assholes on the only non-assholes on the internet was you guys. How did I run across you guys? Do you remember?
I think you were just searching for music that sounds like the residents or music that sounds like Zappa or something. We had all that kind of shit thrown into our website, and
I found your website and emailed you.
Yeah, I think he emailed. Yeah, you emailed Alan first, I think. Yeah.
Right. This is wetshoelaces.com, which is no longer a thing.
No longer, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We did have the website for the first, I don't know, 15, 20 years.
You're actually better off now being on something like Bandcamp because no one's looking for your website. They're going on going on something like that where if they want to discover music. You know?
Yeah. I had my website was called thunderbubble.com. Put on my little short films. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, handcrafted movies. I had my whole marketing pitch down.
We loved them.
It was fun, and we did some short films, and then and I had phonetically fun titles. Faith Healer's Manual for the Slightly Inebriated. It was like I think the first thing you guys contributed to.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the middle of the night. I dreamed about this phrase, Faith Healer's Manual, and I wake up in the middle of the night. It's like there's a Seinfeld episode on this, but it actually happened. I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote down the title and went back to sleep. I woke up in the morning. I was like, "That's fucking awesome." So you guys did something for that, and then we did some other short films, and then I have this like half-hour short film about a guy who can't get a job, which was very autobiographical at the time. And
that was our favorite. I think
Chaos Monster and the Sun God. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, you guys did the complete soundtrack for that. I think it was like 30 minutes of music.
Yeah,
that was our apex, and then I gave up and started doing marketing. But it was interesting. Those were fun, and then we did some musical collaborations where
We were hoping to ride your coattails right to Hollywood.
I remember you telling me that. I think you came to visit Atlanta, and we went to dinner and then a jazz festival thing.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, "Yeah, man. So yeah, we're hoping once you make it, we can be sound." And that was right after I gave up. I was like, I'm just looking for a job now. You're pretty disappointed. So we should probably wrap it up. Getting a little bit over an hour here, but I want to hear about your side projects a little bit. Just tell us about each of you. Both have side projects. Talk about those a little bit, and then any interesting, entertaining stories you have from your life in music. We could wrap it up that way.
Okay, you want to go first, or shall I?
You go.
Okay, my side projects. So a lot of I don't really even have a ton of projects going on now. Obviously, Uneven Steven is my jazz funk, whatever you want to call it, thing. I have my own solo music, which is also on Bandcamp, stevegregory.bandcamp.com. And a lot of that is kind of like ambient drone kind of things. A lot like what we've been doing in Wet Shoelaces in the past couple of years. I have other projects that are not currently going, but you can still find them. The DLF Collective, obviously, is one. We talked about them. Godzilla Fragments, another that you can find on Bandcamp. And as far as a fun story from my life in music, once upon a time, I had a gig down in Manhattan. It was at a place called the Red Warehouse. And it was literally a red warehouse. It was an underground party, and it was not, I don't think it was particularly legal. But when we went in there, there was some sort of bridge thing that they had constructed with a human being lying in it with this padded suit on and a sign that said, "I am the human doormat. Please feel free to trample on me." Jesus and I'm thinking I ain't doing that. So I have my big heavy amplifier and everything. I just step over him and went and did my thing. And so then there was this guy up by the stage, and he was kind of skeezy looking. He was kind of like, he looked like he could use a shower or something. And he had a t-shirt on that said New York City Fetish Ball. And he proceeded to roll himself in a rug and place himself strategically in the front of the stage so that we could use him as a step stool to load our shit up onto the stage.
God.
And I was like, dude, you need to move. This was the craziest shit. And then later on, there's like these women with high heels shoes on, and they're all standing on this human doormat guy and grinding their high heels into him. And I don't know if he was getting off on it or what, but I was thinking, man, this is New York City. This is cool. They had
hilarious.
I hate these avant-garde artists.
You're interviewing the wrong crew then.
I know that, but I mean, I'm just saying that, crap in a bucket and call it art. And,
Oh yeah. I think this is more like a kink party, but yeah.
I was feeling this guy was into this. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't think I want to have sex with you, so I'm going to step over you.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Wow.
So you mentioned a side project I hadn't heard of, Godzilla Fragment. What was that all
I
about?
sent you some of that a couple of years ago, actually.
Clark.
That was me and a guy named Clark Hinchford. He did the album cover art for the Uneven Steven record, and he was on a number of Wet Shoelaces tracks too. Unfortunately, Clark decided a while ago that I was a big meanie face, and he didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And
Thin skin.
That's his loss.
it was a complicated situation. I'll say that, and I'm not going to badmouth him. I have nothing against him. Anytime he wants to call me up, he can call me up. But but I'm still proud of that stuff, and I think it's worth hearing. So I figured I'd mention it.
What's the style like? What kind of music?
Oh well, it's some of it's more song oriented, and some of it's more like the Wet Shoelaces-y kind of noisy, freaky stuff. We kind of went in both directions with it.
Cool.
So the more song oriented stuff, I would describe it as a kind of a post punky art kind of thing. I don't know. I think you'd like it.
Godzilla Fragment. Is it on Bandcamp?
It is. Yep.
Oh,
GodzillaFragment.bandcamp.com.
And
Yep.
on
I'm
Shoebox,
noticing a pattern here. Yeah, but with the URLs.
Yeah.
on Shoebox, there's a track called Bob and Mary. I'm not sure what volume it is, but that's
It's on
that
that.
other guy. That's Clark.
Yeah.
I considered him almost a third member of Wet Shoelaces. Of all the guests that we've had, he fit in the best with us, in my opinion, anyway.
So Steven must have been a real fucking dick to chase this guy away, huh? What'd you do?
I don't know how I put up with him for 25 years.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right. Alan, tell us about your side projects and your crazy story from the last one.
It's funny. Up until a year ago, I had no other side projects. And that was by design. Wet Shoelaces was my thing. And funny enough, we have to go back to 1999, right before we started this, or right around the same time. Steve and I were in a sort of a band with his wife at the time called Queen Elvis. And we did a few gigs, like coffee house type stuff. No drums, just the acoustic guitar, bass. That's pretty much it, and vocals. And it was fun. And then we had a gig opening up for a friend of mine's band. And just long story short, it was a shit show. It did not go well. And she stormed off the stage in a hissy fit at one point. And I was just like, I had been in 2 cover bands previous to that. So I had a good 5-6 years doing gigs, and in upstate New York, it sucks in the winter. Dragging all your shit to a nightclub, you're not getting out to.
Oh yeah, I would just never go outside.
I was just tired of it all, and that was just the last straw for me. But I didn't. It wasn't anything. There was no animosity. I just decided, that was the end of Queen Elvis after that, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not playing out anymore. I was not interested in playing in bands. So for the next 24 years, it was just me and Steve in the studio, and I was happy as a pig in shit doing that. Wet Shoelaces was my thing. Now I would, I still play. I could play weddings and stuff. Hey, and I might as well say this: every wedding I've played, just me and an acoustic guitar has ended in divorce, including mine.
Including his own, right?
Yeah, including my own. So I don't do that anymore. But I was doing I would do little things, like that. I would play for my friends or whatever. But just a year ago, a friend of mine got me into a band. He literally twisted my arm until I went to see these people, and they were all great. I think I told you about these guys on the Dylan episode. We're called Lit Hour, female lead singer,
Yeah.
female rock oriented type
That's fun.
music. And long story short, I said, well, they were looking for a guitar and a bass player, and I said, well, if I can play bass, I'll play in your band. And so they, without hearing me play a note of bass, they were like, sure.
Right.
So I channeled Steve's, Steve taught me how to play bass 20 years ago, so
That's
within a
great.
week I learned how to play bass again. And I've been just having a ball with this band, playing covers.
That's what it should be. Just a good time,
Yeah. So that's my side project. And that's a funny story. I've come up with this. I don't know how it works, but my claim to fame with musical performances is I have seen a number of bands on their final tour, but you didn't know it was their final tour. Now listen to this list, right? The Clash. I saw them on.
You saw the Clash?
I saw the Clash on their Combat Rock tour in '82.
Nice.
That was it.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
Right. I saw the Police the following year. Synchronicity.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I saw.
I'm noticing a theme here with the weddings and with the going to see the bands.
Right.
Yeah, it was a kiss of death.
Yeah. Do you remember Blind Melon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw them. Then he hung himself, right?
Yeah, drugs.
Yeah, there's whatever. Yeah. Soon after. I saw Nirvana on their In Utero tour. And I remember your story, Snags. Yeah, I actually went, but I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see them again.
Yeah. Done.
That was great.
That's funny.
And who else? Oh, Robin Hitchcock and the Egyptians. He's had several bands, but I did see their final tour as well. But I think that's the list.
We saw Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that was it.
Yeah, we saw Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then he fucking died. And it's not just breaking up, but he,
Yeah.
And then I saw Sonic Youth, and then she found out he was cheating, and that was the end of that.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Jeez, that never happens in bands.
No, that's a rare one.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Hey,
well,
can we one more thing?
Sure. Lay it on us.
Steve brought it up, the whole Halloween death thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have an ongoing project that we haven't touched in a while, but it's called Eternal Mortality. And we must have started this about 10 years ago, where we're just going to continue to add to this one song until one of us moves on to the next stage, and then that'll be it. The other one will release it, and it's up to about 3 hours long now.
I think so, yeah. So yeah, at some point, hopefully it'll be hours and hours long before we ever have to release it. But one of us will have to wipe the tears.
Interesting.
So I think it's really cool, though. It's like a real, let's face your mortality and also make the longest song we can possibly make, because it can't get any longer. There's only 2 members of the band, so pretty much irreplaceable at this point.
So do you have a backup plan in case there's a studio fire and you both die at the same time?
Both die at the same time. I think that the world will be deprived of that.
Oh, come on! You just got to have a backup plan for releasing it.
I've got 2 kids. Maybe I'll work out some with them.
Yeah.
Your will.
Yeah, right. I'll have to write it in my will. Yeah.
All right. So let's tell us about your newest album, and then we'll wrap it up.
Our newest album is called Songs to Get You to the Other Side.
Speaking of death.
And the idea, well, I don't know if it's even about death. It's the idea is almost like all of the songs have this sort of like otherworldly traveling through hyperspace kind of vibe to it. So we just kind of had this idea that we would put all these songs onto one CD and have it conceptually like you're just going through some sort of strange transformation or traveling through a weird dimension or any kind of thing like that. And there's bits and pieces there where you hear like little bits of radio, people like trying to get a hold of you. Attention, we're attempting transmission, but then it like all fades out and farts out again. And then it's all kind of disturbing and weird until the last song. And then it ends on a very peaceful, calm note. And you know that you did finally successfully make it to the other side. So
yeah,
songs
Broke,
you
broke on through.
I think it's a great listen too.
Yes.
I'm very proud of it, and I think it's one of the better things we've done. So I recommend.
Oh yeah, to me, yeah, I think we just get better and better. And I hate to say, more mature, but I kind of think everything we do is a little bit better than the last thing.
Yeah, I do too. Honestly, I know you're all about like having people check out the box set, and I'd love them to check out the box set, but I'd really love them to check out the newer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where you're at now.
Yeah,
drop some of those other album titles so people know what to look for. Then
another one of my personal favorites is Teleportation Disasters.
It's a great fucking title.
Yeah,
you. And then
good album cover.
And then I think the Ivory Trip, if you want to hear something that's like all one long song.
I played God on that album.
Nice.
At the end of it, yeah.
Not the Ivory Trip.
Yeah.
No, the Ivory
Trip. Maybe it's Wet Shoelaces 30.
It's Wet Shoelaces 30, which is in a similar vibe to those other ones too. I recommend that as well. So yeah, all that stuff. It's all good.
So you've got the newer stuff on Bandcamp. You've got the box set, but there's got to be like dozens of albums that aren't on Bandcamp, right? Just early shit.
Yeah.
Bit by bit.
We're going back in time.
We're kind of like, we're working on it in reverse order, and we do intend to have the entire catalog up on Bandcamp eventually, but it's just a long process,
Yeah, it's a labor of love, a lot to.
Yes.
Right.
Rockin'. So wetshoelaces.bandcamp.com, right?
That's it.
All right. We'll drop that link in the click pit. Silky, you got anything to ask, or good to go?
No, it's great to hear you guys kind of go through your whole career. It's funny. I love abstract stuff, but I would say that I am very almost old-fashioned, where I come from a blues bass approach to any music. I say that, but I'll listen to the most crazy shit. My phone's always on random when I get in the car, so it might play some just free jazz, Ornette Coleman shit,
love it,
Slayer to
yes.
And it's all different all the time,
right.
And I think that's what keeps me grounded, where some people have to be in a certain mood. We got to only hear blues today because I'm in a mood, and I hate that. I want to go all over.
He puts when he drives, he just puts his whole music collection on shuffle. And that's what he's listening to.
That's what I've got at home. I've got like 50,000 songs.
Yeah.
I've got it all on shuffle. Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll go from
Beethoven to Dolly Parton.
Some crazy ass, just very obscure jazz guy to Robert Johnson and Slayer. We're gonna listen to Slayer now. And
I remember back in the 90s, you're on this big Butthole Surfers kick, and you used to tell me, nothing relaxes me more than some Butthole Surfers. When I'm stressed out, I just put on Butthole and just calms me down.
I think they had Touch and Go had reissued a bunch of it, so I was grabbing it all up because some of that had been out of print, and it was just so awesome to just hear the most crazy abstract freak out stuff like Hairway to Steven or
Locust Abortion Technician.
Locust Abortion Technician.
Yeah.
That EP is still just amazing.
I don't know how I didn't come up with Hairway to Steven first.
Yeah,
I mean,
that sucks.
He's
Killer
right
time.
next to me, for
Right
God's
next
sake.
to you. Yeah. But yeah, so it's I'll hear some music and I just can't, it's too abstract for me. But then I'll catch myself listening to something just as crazy. So I don't know. I kid myself because there's times the old man in me is like, turn that off. But then the next day I'm listening to something just as weird, you know?
Yeah.
So.
As far as that goes, you just reminded me of something, you know, like listening to a lot of our early stuff is very abstract and weird and probably shouldn't have been on the CD. Like we had absolutely no filter in the beginning. Anything we threw at the wall, you know, stuck. Everything stuck.
I think that's a young guy's it's what you do.
So
some of the projects me and Snags have done, I think now I'd be like, dude, that's stupid, you know. But we did them
like Attack of the Phantom Lord, for example.
Yeah, I can't see us doing that, but it would be so fun to see those again.
Oh yeah, but we're much more disciplined now. We we used to think we have to use every single track on this 9-track, 16-track recorder.
Right.
And release everything, whether it was good or not.
Yeah.
Now we have enough sense to leave some shit on the cutting room floor.
Right.
You know?
And that's a good thing, you know.
Yeah, very good thing. Yeah. That's why I think everything we do is a little bit better than the last time now. Yeah.
Well, it's like when the Beatles anthology stuff came out and you were finally hearing take 2 or take 3 and that blew my doors because I'm like, these guys were perfect and they did all these songs in one take and never, you know, no variation. It was just so it was very strange to hear how many times they did some of those songs.
There's some bootleg outtakes of Help where George Harrison keeps blowing. There's a little kind of arpeggio string pick thing in that song. He's just, and a friend of mine somehow had the bootlegs from the recording sessions and he's just blowing it over and over and over again. And they eventually just recorded it without that little break and dubbed it in over afterwards. But it was just interesting. It was interesting hearing the mortal kind of, there's a side to them that wasn't perfect. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yep.
But anyways, thanks for coming on. This has been fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be bugging you cats about guesting on future shit. So
you never know.
You never know.
Anytime.
Well, hang out. We'll say goodbye, but hang out.
Yeah, hang on for the after post recording where we urge you guys to hype this shit on your social media and all that. So we'll be talking about that in a second. Peace out, everybody. Keep it real.
Bye.
Later.